Imagine stepping out onto your patio one warm June morning, coffee in hand, and seeing your containers already alive with color and texture. No bare soil waiting for fresh annuals, no frantic rush to the garden center because everything died back over winter. The lavender is sending up its silvery spikes. The coneflowers are nodding their daisy-like heads in the breeze. And the sedum mounds look plump and ready for another season of easy beauty. That quiet satisfaction? It's real. And it comes from choosing the right plants, the kind that settle into pots like they were born for them. I've been there, like so many of us have. Early on, my containers were filled with bright petunias and trailing verbena that looked stunning for a month or two, then turned leggy and thirsty by midsummer. I'd water twice a day in the heat, feed them weekly, and still watch them fade by September. Come spring, the whole cycle started again. Buy, plant, replace. It felt endless, expensive, and frankly exhausting for what was supposed to be a relaxing hobby. Then one year I tried something different. I slipped a few hardy perennials into larger pots and left them alone over winter. The next spring, they pushed up fresh growth without me lifting a finger. Year after year, they grew stronger, more drought-tolerant, more forgiving. The pots became living investments rather than seasonal expenses. That's the quiet revolution I want to share with you today. Perennials that thrive in containers, not despite the limits of pot life, but because of them. What most of us miss when we first try container gardening is that the container itself isn't the enemy. Poor drainage, fluctuating moisture, and restricted root space can actually suit certain plants beautifully. In the ground, some of these perennials might spread too eagerly or struggle in heavy clay. In a pot, their roots stay contained, the soil warms faster in spring, and excess water drains away quickly. Conditions many Mediterranean or prairie natives adore. Over time, their roots deepen. Their resilience builds, and suddenly you have plants that laugh at a 2-week vacation or a stretch of dry weather. They return faithfully each spring, often bigger and better, supporting bees, butterflies, and even birds along the way. No more yearly replanting, just good soil, sensible watering at the start, and the joy of watching something you planted once keep giving for years. Let's walk through these treasures together, the way I wish someone had walked me through them years ago. I'll share what I've learned from my own pots here in a temperate corner of the world, plus tips tailored for gardeners across the United States and Europe, whether you're dealing with chilly Zone 5 winters in the Midwest, humid summers in the Southeast, or the milder, wetter conditions so common in the UK and Northern Europe. We'll talk soil, companions, common pitfalls, and those small seasonal rhythms that turn a simple pot into a thriving miniature garden. Lavender stands out as the poster child for container success. Its silvery leaves and fragrant purple blooms seem made for the warm, dry microclimate a pot creates. I remember tucking a compact English lavender into a terracotta pot on my sunny patio one spring. By the second year, it had doubled in size, shrugging off a dry spell that left my neighbor's annuals wilted. The secret is choosing the right variety, Hitcut or Munstead for colder zones 5 through 9, where they return reliably after a light mulch and shelter from the worst winter wet. In Mediterranean-like climates of southern Europe or California, you can experiment with the showier Spanish types, though they need a bit more protection north of Zone 7. Plant lavender in a gritty, well-draining mix. Equal parts potting soil, coarse sand, and a handful of gravel. Water deeply but infrequently once established. Let the top 2 inches dry out completely. A light trim after the first flush of flowers encourages a second round later in summer. Skip the fertilizer. Lean soil keeps the scent strong and the growth compact. Pair it with silvery lamb's ear or trailing thyme for a fragrant, pollinator-friendly display that looks right at home in cottage-style gardens from Portland to Provence. One common mistake is overwatering. Lavender would rather be a little thirsty than soggy. In humid regions, elevate pots on feet to improve airflow and prevent fungal issues. Coneflower, or echinacea, is another quiet hero that many gardeners overlook for pots. Those sturdy daisy blooms in shades of pink, purple and white bring cheerful prairie energy to even the smallest patio. Modern compact varieties like Powwow or the Cheyenne series stay happily contained in anything 12 inches wide or larger. What surprised me most was how their deep taproots turn them into drought champions. After the first full season, I can leave my coneflower pots for 10 days in July heat without guilt. The plants simply reach deeper into the soil mix and keep blooming. Leave some spent flower heads standing into winter and you'll enjoy both architectural structure and a steady stream of goldfinches pecking at the seeds. Nature's own winter entertainment right outside your window. In colder European zones or the northern US, choose varieties bred for hardiness down to Zone 3. Pair them with shorter grasses or dwarf catmint for a low-care meadow feel. Deadhead selectively if you want more flowers, but don't feel obliged. The birds will thank you if you don't. A light compost top dressing in spring is all the feeding they need. Dwarf ornamental grasses bring movement and year-round texture that flowering plants simply can't match. Blue fescue stays a neat steel blue cushion just 8 to 10 inches tall, perfect for edging larger pots or standing alone in a shallow bowl. Hamilne fountain grass adds graceful plumes that catch the light and rustle in the breeze, while prairie dropseed offers fine texture and a subtle fragrance on warm evenings. I love watching these grasses sway even on the calmest days. It turns a static pot into something alive. Cut them back hard in late winter before new growth emerges, and they'll reward you with fresh fountains every spring. They ask for almost nothing once established: a deep drink now and then, and soil that drains freely. In windy coastal gardens of the Pacific Northwest or the British Isles, they stand firm without staking. Tuck them behind lower perennials so their vertical lines draw the eye upward. The contrast against darker foliage or bright blooms makes any container look thoughtfully designed. Sedum or stonecrop might be the ultimate neglect-tolerant perennial for pots. Those thick, fleshy leaves store water like tiny reservoirs, letting the plant sail through heat waves and forgotten waterings with a smile. Autumn Joy and similar upright varieties build tidy mounds of blue-green or burgundy foliage all summer, then crown themselves with flat-topped flower clusters that turn coppery and persist through frost. I once returned from a 3-week trip in August to find my sedum pots looking better than the day I left, plump, blooming, and completely unbothered. Water once a week in peak summer if the soil feels dry several inches down. Otherwise, let them be. They thrive in the poorest, grittiest mixes and actually resent rich soil that produces floppy growth. In colder zones, their dried flower heads stand like rust-colored sculptures against the snow, giving winter interest that annuals could never provide. Combine sedum with trailing ivy or short grasses for textural magic that lasts from spring through the first hard freeze. Acapanthus, the lily of the Nile, does something magical in containers that it rarely matches in the open ground. When its roots feel snug, the plant pours energy into spectacular spherical flower clusters atop tall stems. I've watched a single pot-bound clump produce twice as many blooms in its 3rd year as it did when freshly planted. Strap-like foliage stays neat and evergreen in milder climates, while the blue or white globes light up mid to late summer like living fireworks. Choose hardy head-borne hybrids for Zone 7 and warmer. In cooler spots, tuck the pots into a sheltered garage or cold frame for winter. Don't rush to repot. Even when roots peek from the drainage holes, the plant often performs better. Pair with trailing bacopa or silver dichondra for a striking contrast on a sunny deck. In humid southeastern US gardens or rainy UK summers, good drainage prevents the crown rot that sometimes plagues in-ground plantings. Heuchera, those fabulous coral bells, bring foliage color that lasts from the first warm days of spring until hard frost. Lime greens, deep burgundies, caramels and near blacks with metallic sheen turn a simple pot into a living painting. What many gardeners don't realize is how perfectly suited they are to containers. The excellent drainage prevents the crown rot that often kills them in heavy garden beds. I grow several on my shaded north-facing porch, where they catch dappled light and look fresh even in August heat. They ask for morning sun or bright shade, and a light mulch to keep roots cool. In zones 4 through 9, they overwinter beautifully with minimal protection. Companion them with ferns or hostas for a woodland vignette, or let them shine solo in a decorative pot by the front door. A gentle trim of tired leaves in spring keeps them tidy. Pollinators adore their delicate spring flowers, adding another layer of life to your display. Hardy geraniums, true cranesbills, not the tender bedding types, offer months of bloom with almost no effort. Roseanne is my personal champion, producing violet blue flowers from late spring straight through autumn without deadheading. Its gentle, trailing habit softens pot edges beautifully, spilling over the rim in a cascade of color. Biocovo brings white blooms and exceptional drought tolerance for hotter, drier spots. These plants spread politely in containers, never becoming invasive. Cut them back lightly after the first big flush, and they often repeat. In cooler northern gardens, they appreciate a bit of afternoon shade. In warmer southern zones, they handle full sun if watered at the base. Mix with upright salvias or short grasses for a balanced look that stays colorful for half the year. Knipophia, the red-hot poker, brings exotic drama to the most ordinary patio. Dwarf varieties like the Popsicle series stay a manageable 18 to 36 inches, yet produce those fiery, torch-like spikes in oranges, reds, and creams that stop visitors in their tracks. In containers, you gain the huge advantage of mobility. Simply move the pot to a sheltered spot when freezing nights threaten in Zone 5 or 6 gardens across the northern US or Scandinavia. They love full sun and gritty soil. Once established, they tolerate dry spells remarkably well. Pair one bold Knipophia with silver artemisia or blue fescue for a striking modern composition. The flowers last for weeks and attract hummingbirds in a way that feels almost magical on a quiet evening. Penstemon offers tubular flowers in jewel tones that hummingbirds find irresistible. Once settled, these plants shrug off drought like few others. Tall spikes rise above neat foliage mounds, blooming for 8 to 12 weeks in many varieties. In containers, their compact habits stay in perfect proportion, and the drainage suits their preference for quick-drying roots. Choose hardy types for your zone. Many thrive from Zone 4 upward. A light cutback after the first bloom encourages a second round. Plant them with shorter dianthus or trailing herbs for a pollinator paradise that brings life right to your seating area. In humid climates, good air circulation prevents mildew. In drier western states or Mediterranean Europe, they practically maintain themselves. Salvia nemorosa, the woodland sage, delivers dense purple spikes that bees and butterflies swarm over. Caradonna and Maynite stay compact yet produce weeks of color, followed by a strong second flush if you shear them back halfway. Their drought tolerance, once established, makes them ideal for busy gardeners or hot patios. The deep violet tones pair wonderfully with silver foliage or warm oranges. In containers, their modest root systems never outgrow the space. A gravel mulch helps keep the crown dry and the flowers prolific. From the cool, damp springs of the Pacific Northwest to the warmer summers of Central Europe, these salvias adapt with grace. Crocosmia surprised me most when I first tried it in pots. Known for spreading vigorously in the ground, its corms behave perfectly when contained. Lucifer's arching sprays of fiery red-orange flowers create a fountain effect that looks professionally designed. The container solves the only drawback while preserving every bit of drama. Leave the seed heads for winter interest and bird food. Then divide every few years when the pot feels crowded. Free plants for friends or new displays. Full sun and average soil suit them perfectly. In colder zones, a sheltered winter spot keeps them happy. Pair with shorter grasses or yellow coreopsis for sizzling summer color. Dianthus or garden pinks pack more flower power per inch than almost anything else. Compact varieties like Fire Witch stay neat and produce fragrant blooms in pinks, whites and crimsons over a long season. Many are hardy to Zone 3, returning reliably for years when protected from winter wet, the real killer in containers. Their clove scent on warm evenings is pure delight. Tuck them at the front of mixed pots where their low mounds spill forward. In cooler climates, they appreciate morning sun. In hotter southern gardens, a touch of afternoon shade prevents fading. A light shearing after bloom keeps them tight and encourages rebloom. Achillea, or yarrow, is toughness incarnate. Flat-topped flower clusters in sunset shades rise on sturdy stems, aging gracefully from bright to antique tones that hold through winter as natural dried arrangements. It evolved for poor, dry soil, so containers suit it perfectly. Overwatering is the only real mistake. Controlled dryness keeps growth compact and upright. In zones 3 through 9, it performs without complaint. Companion it with purple salvias or blue catmint for classic cottage contrast. The foliage is aromatic, and the flowers attract beneficial insects by the dozen. A single pot of yarrow can carry a whole display through the dog days of summer. Creeping phlox turns hanging baskets or tall pots into living bouquets in early spring. Masses of tiny flowers in pink, white or magenta cover the plant completely, then give way to tidy evergreen foliage that stays attractive year-round in milder winters. Light shearing after bloom prevents woodiness and keeps the cascade neat. It's perfect for balconies or porches where early color is welcome. In colder regions, it appreciates protection from harsh winds. In warmer areas, it handles heat with ease if given decent drainage. The early nectar supports emerging pollinators when little else is flowering. Veronica spicata sends up elegant blue, purple or pink spikes that add vertical punch to any container. Compact varieties like Royal Candles stay in proportion while delivering reliable midsummer color and a second flush after deadheading. It handles the temperature swings of pot life better than its delicate look suggest. Plant it in full sun or light shade with good drainage. Pair with trailing petunias. No, wait, better yet with silver foliage or dwarf grasses for a more lasting display. In humid summers, morning watering and airflow keep foliage clean. Pulmonaria solves the deep shade container puzzle beautifully. Silver-splashed leaves light up dark corners, while early tubular flowers in pinks, blues or whites welcome spring. In containers, the excellent drainage prevents the mildew that sometimes troubles them in the ground. Choose striking varieties like Raspberry Splash for maximum impact. They thrive in north-facing spots or under tree canopies where other plants sulk. A light compost dressing in spring is plenty. Their early blooms support early bees, and the foliage remains handsome through the season. Finally, Liriope, lily turf, might be the most quietly revolutionary plant here. It handles full shade, dry soil, root competition, heat, and neglect with equal grace. Dense grass-like foliage stays evergreen in milder climates, while late summer flower spikes and blackberries add interest. Variegated forms bring year-round light to shady corners. Once established, it asks for nothing. Divide every few years when pots become crowded. In zones 4 through 10, it performs reliably. Use it as a structural anchor in mixed-shade pots, or let it stand alone in a simple bowl. It changes how you think about difficult spots. Beauty without babysitting. These 17 plants represent more than a list. They're an invitation to rethink what container gardening can be. Start small. Choose 2 or 3 that match your light and climate. Give them 1 full season to settle. Then watch as they grow bolder, more self-sufficient, more beautiful with each passing year. Your maintenance time drops while the pleasure rises. The soil in those pots becomes alive with roots that remember seasons past. Your patio, balcony, or doorstep turns into a living tapestry that returns faithfully, supporting wildlife and soothing your spirit. That's the gift these perennials offer. Not perfection, but partnership. Steady, generous, and deeply satisfying. From one gardener's soil to yours. I hope you'll try a few and discover the same quiet joy I've found. Your containers will thank you, season after season. Keep tending gently, and the garden will keep giving back.